We cannot continue with a public sector that is outpacing the private sector. We cannot continue in an America where we are making more and more people wedded to government, either by subsistence check or by employment check, where we are creating more victims and making people more dependent upon government. That has to end, and the hard decisions come right now. We cannot continue on with the policies of behavior modification through excessive taxation and overburdensome regulation. And that's why we're going to be cutting from the EPA. Thank you. Thank you. The wasteful stimulus spending, the federal bailouts, which leads to the nationalization of production, automobile industry, finance industry, health care. If health care is so great, then someone explain to me why over 200 Democrat political groups are going to the president and asking for waivers. I say this to the president: the good things in the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, closing the donut hole, making sure that we take care of people with the pre-existing conditions, keeping people on our young kids on our insurance. I can probably fit that in 5 to 10 pages. It's the other 2,490 pages with 11 new taxes, 159 new government agencies and bureaucracies, and 16,000 new IRS agents that the United States of America does not want. Thank you. We're tired of failed gimmick policies like cash for clunkers. And then I just found out today that we're going to have cash for plug-ins, which will be announced on Monday, where the government will hand out checks for $7,500 for people that buy electric cars. Once again, Mr. President, did you hear the American people? 2008. Why did we have a financial meltdown? Go back and study the Community Reinvestment Act. When government all of a sudden gets into the mortgage industry, when we create an agency like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, when we lower down the standards for lending, when we get rid of Glass-Steagall, and we now start to securitize our mortgages, and we sell off bag mortgages throughout our own financial industry and overseas. If government gets out of the way of the private sector, it would not have happened in 2008. As I sat at the State of the Union address and I heard the president use these words, investment and innovation, those words are not part of the public sector lexicon. Those words are part of the private sector. They are part of our free market. They are part of our free enterprise, which promotes ingenuity. Through the private sector is where we will have long-term sustainable economic growth, job growth, financial certainty, predictability, and viability, not from President Obama's version of investment. It comes from your investment, and that's what we must set the conditions for. See, the dawn of a new America means that we must listen to the words of Abraham Lincoln when he said, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." Now is the time to reform our individual tax code. Now is the time to cut our corporate business tax rate from 35% down to 20%. Now is the time to eliminate capital gains taxes and dividends taxes. Now is the time to cap federal spending at 18 to 20%. Now is the time to develop a balanced budget amendment. Now is the time Thank you. Thank you. Now is the time to eliminate redundant, failed, and duplicitous federal government programs and agencies. Make the hard decisions. We must implement fiscal responsibility that's based upon the constitutional role of the federal government. And I say we start looking at every government program and agency that has been created in the last 10 years, and let's start making some hard examinations. Now is the time. The second important pillar in our conservative principles is peace through vigilance, through resolve, and through strength. A new America means that we must remember the words of Sir Edmund Burke when he said, "All that is required for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Sun Tzu tells us in the book The Art of War to know your enemy and to know yourself and to know the terrain or the environment. In countless battles, you will always be victorious. Peace begins with courageous leaders who are willing to identify and define our enemy and their objectives, because political correctness has no place in our national security strategy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. See, I find it appalling that someone such as Major Malik Nadal Hassan can gun down American soldiers and we treat that incident like workplace violence. So let me be clear. Truth is not subjective, and facts do not lie. And those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. A new America, a secure America, means that we can ill afford to have a 21st century Sir Neville Chamberlain moment. Yesterday we witnessed a historic moment in Egypt. And I applaud the flames of freedom finding its way into this Arab nation. However, let us be reminded of the lessons of the revolution in Iran. Let us also remember that there was a certain group that came into Afghanistan after the Soviet Union departed, and that country fell into civil war. That same group promised to bring in civil society and stability. That same group was recognized by the Clinton administration, even had their foreign minister brought here and hosted in the White House. That group was named the Taliban. History has a way of teaching you a very bad lesson if you don't pay attention. See, many cheered the departure of Hosni Mubarak, but I would have much rather seen the departure of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and the end of the rule of the theocrats in Iran. Thank you. A weak America has never proven good for the world. We must ensure that our men and women in combat have clear objectives, the tools for victory, and the rules of engagement which enable them to seize and maintain the initiative from the enemy. And yes, I do have a problem with granting American constitutional rights to terrorists while we attempt to and have imprisoned our own warriors for killing terrorists. Thank you. Thank you. The dawn of a new America means this: secure our borders and enforce our laws. Recognize the emerging threats on the Korean Peninsula.